So for today's video, we're going to be playing Crystal Rune, or whatever you want to call the archetype. I don't know what the official name will be, but for now I'll just call it Crystal Rune. It is based on the new Encroacher cards that we got in the current set, which is reminiscent a bit of Chess Rune in the past if you've played the original game. Basically, it's just built around summoning a bunch of small guys with Rush, and then eventually you'll build up to a big payoff. So yeah, that's basically how the deck works, so let's look at the deck list we're playing for today. So this is the list we're playing for today. I got the idea for this list from watching Parachan, a Japanese pro player, and also someone who streams a lot. So yeah, this is the list he was playing a while ago, just experimenting with the archetype to see what works. And I thought this was a very interesting list of very cool ideas, so I wanted to pick it up for a video as well. So you can see there's quite a few things going on here. First of all, there is 0 copies of the what's it called? Crystal Spawn. You can run Crystal Spawn in the deck. This list doesn't run it at all. The only rune followers you're running is 3 copies of Shim, 3 copies of Kalgedantla, and 1 copy of Enraptured Student. So I thought this was very interesting because I've always sort of enjoyed it when you sort of purposely run small amounts of followers to guarantee search high accuracy from searches like Reaved Order here, which is the main idea. Since then, though, he has updated to a list that runs 3 crystal spawns, so I will link his video that he just uploaded recently to a more updated version of this list in the description, but this is the one I'll be playing with for today since this is one that I recorded the games with. Other than that, we also have 2 copies of Goddess of Starlight here. Goddess of Starlight is very interesting in this deck because you can use it to copy Kalgedantla. It's a good way to make up for the fact that you're not running a lot of the archetype followers. You can just copy Kalgedantla and get your crystal spawn count up that way. And it's also you can also copy it the depths of the depths of the Eld crystals as well if you want to go with that. And then also running Darkside here. Darkside is pretty interesting. It allows you to remove followers in the early game as well as buff Shim to heal up more. It also allows you to remove your own crystal spawn if you need more board space for plays in the later game. And then finally, my one-off tech card here is Augury Cap. In case all your finishers miss, I feel like this isn't really that good of a card to run, so you probably want to run something better. But in this case, I'm running Augury Cap. So yeah, this is the list we're playing for today, and let's look at some games. So for our first match here, we have a match against Evo Forest, sorry. This matchup is pretty bad right off the bat, but we will try our best, I guess. For the mulligan, we'll just look for Kalgedantla. You can't play the game without him, so opening him as soon as possible is very important. Especially if you're playing Goddess of Starlight, you want to be able to clone the Kalgedantla, so that is the goal. My opponent coins out Goddess of Starlight. My opponent coins out the Kindly Executor here, which means we know the Springbloom Fairy is coming next. So we go ahead and play Advent here, but we don't trade so that we can keep one of these crystal spawn on board, which will allow us to answer the Springbloom Fairy next turn with the combination of Shim. We have the 3-cost spell, we don't have to worry about this, but since we don't really want to take this 3 damage to the face, so we go ahead and drop Shim here, which will be able to clear the Springbloom Fairy. We don't have to worry too much about losing the Shim here because ideally with Reaved Order we should be able to find our second copy, especially since we already have our Enraptured Student. We only have 2 copies of Shim and 3 copies of Kalgedantla left in the deck. When you use Unleashed here, we can take the damage because we can heal with Shim. More importantly, we need to draw into our deck to find our Kalgedantla so that we can play the game. We do have Reaved Order here, but unfortunately we don't have any generators that we can pair with it, so we sort of have to just draw into our deck and pray. Luckily for us though, my opponent had a pretty weak turn here with just dropping Floral Offering and doing nothing. Against this matchup, if your opponent draws super well and you don't, you cannot win, so yeah, thankfully my opponent didn't draw that well here. We'll go ahead and drop Kindly Executor here, as well as their Springbloom Fairy to annoy me on board, I guess. Anything that isn't Motherly Forest Dweller we will take, although we do have this Stormy Blast here to clear Motherly Forest Dweller in the worst case. We'll use Stormy Blast to clear one of their followers here. And then we can go ahead and play the Goat spell and then use Reaved Order to draw into our deck. Finally pick out Kalgedantla, which is nice. A bit late, but what can you do? And we use Dark Side to clear as well as pop our World of Game so that we can draw into our deck to find more copies of Calcadentla and other crystal generators. My opponent finally has their Monthly Forest Dweller here, which is very annoying, but we should be able to answer this, so it's not the end of the world, I suppose. We got Unleashed here, which is very nice. It helps us answer this much more cleanly than having to find workarounds with stuff like Bewitching Elk Crystals to clear this board. So we'll go ahead and play that to draw into our deck and then Super Evolve the Shim here to get her crest active so that we can start buffing our crystal spawns, which is nice. Unfortunately, our hand fills up. This is something I'm quite bad with while playing this deck, is that I mill cards a lot of the time. It's something I have to get better at, but for now this is what I'm working with, so bear with me, I guess. Very luckily for me here, my opponent doesn't have Althenia. If they had it, I'd probably just lose the game here, but thankfully they didn't have it, so I get to play the game. Unfortunately, we mill Reefed Order there, but it's not the end of the world because with the power of the Goddess of Starlight here, we can clone our Elk Crystal. I mean, we can clone our Calcadentla as well as our Bewitching Elk Crystals to help get more Calcadentlas as well as start discounting them. And we held on to this Stormy Blast as well, just because I think it's going to be very important in this matchup for trying to snipe Althenia behind her wards. And we just go ahead and create our followers here. Pretty standard stuff. I think I can just barely answer Althenia if they went for it here, but thankfully my opponent didn't. They went for Cupitan instead. But they will take this time to activate their Sathanit's Faith effect and use Flower Offering to draw into their deck as well, and Depths of the Outlands will evolve their Sathanit here, so we take a bit of damage. As long as we are above 14, we are not really under much threat though, so we just have to watch out for that as we play the game. But now the goal is to start discounting these Calcadentlas as well as find more copies and chip them down so that we can look for a finish at some point. Go ahead and enhance the Bewitching Elk Crystals here and just chip them a bit with our Crystal Spawn. Generally we save Evo points by Calcadentla because it represents the most damage, but depending on the matchup, depending on the situation, you might consider using Evo points elsewhere as well. Opponent finally drops Althenia here, although it is late enough in the game that we can answer it, so we're not too worried here. Just go ahead and draw into our deck here, go ahead and use Stormy Blast to get rid of the Althenia, and then we can play Looking Smart to draw into our deck more to find more useful cards than what we have in hand right now. And we evolve Calcadentla as well. You can see we are at 13 now, so we do need to play Depths of the Elk Crystals to not die to Sandalphon plus Cupitan, so go ahead and do that. And then we just trade into their followers and just hit them in the face. As you can see, they're quite low right now, so we can look for a lethal next turn, hopefully. Opponent unfortunately does have second Althenia here to set out a bunch of wards. It's not the worst thing ever because we can just kill them with Calcadentla, but I guess the requirements are higher now since they have more wards. Especially with this Elf Hammer, they're gonna buff Althenia as well with a ward, so we have to get through that. We can see cloning the Stormy Blast earlier on the Goddess turn actually paid off here, so we can get rid of this ward quite easily. So we go ahead and summon as many Elk Crystals as we can before we finally drop our Calcadentla. Super Evolve it to get the spell. Get rid of one of these wards here, and then you go ahead and play the spell here. Unfortunately, we don't manage to kill my opponent one shot. The normal rule of thumb, the expected value for each thing is just the faith divided by 3. Obviously, it's rarely gonna be exactly that even, but in this case, we miss. You can see in this case, our expected value was around 7, which we just barely missed, which means that we had to get through their wards. But in the end, we have lethal anyway, so yeah, this matchup is quite bad. But if your opponent draws badly, you can come back, I guess, is the moral of the story. I don't know, I would say I drew pretty badly here, so maybe it's fair. So yeah, that's it for this game. Our next match here is against Blood. Generally, we expect to be Milteo. I kept Advent of the Elk Crystals to reduce early damage. Ideally, we did want to find Calcadentla, but you can't always get what you want, I guess. While I do recommend you just hard mulligan for Calcadentla every time. Against some matchups, you can't afford to do that if you need early game cards like Advent of the Elk Crystals, so that's why I keep it here. Opponent plays Winged Servants. I think it can still be aggro even if it's not Milteo, so we do go ahead and use Advent of Elk Crystals here to clear those so we don't take too much damage. Opponent draws the second Winged Servants here. At this point, I have a choice of just using Advent to clear it again, But in this case, I'm scared that I can't win the game if I don't find my key parts, so I end up using a Reef Order at the expense of leaving one bat alive. Surely this 1 health will not lose me the game. At least that's what I think, and then my opponent drops Elmida, so this tells me this is gonna be Evo, and I'm instantly relieved because Evo is a much better matchup for us than Milteo, so that's good for us. And use Stormy Blast to clear her and draw into our deck. We did draw some Crystal Generators, but we want to find more Calgate and there's really no rush to just rush out these crystals if you don't have to, so yeah. The good thing about Goddess of Starlight is that it improves your matchup against these slow decks by a lot because your maximum output is just ridiculous with Goddess to clone key cards, so that is something we have going for us in this matchup. And now we just play patiently, draw into our deck and start finding these generators and try to find Goddess as well, because Goddess is good in this matchup. Go ahead and drop Shim here for her Super Evolve. You can see we managed to keep all our Evo points, which is very nice in this, in general. Just be able to copy as many copies of Calcadentla and Calcadentla spell as possible. It's good. We can start pressuring them a bit here just by summoning a bunch of followers now that we have Shim activated and a bunch of Calcadentlas in hand. Opponent will go ahead and drop Fediel here, which will be able to clear my board as well as heal them up, which is fine because we're not trying to kill them quite yet. Got a bunch of cards here, mill Bewitching Out Crystals, which is not ideal, but we did find our last copy of Calcadentla, which is quite nice. We'll go ahead and coin out Bewitching Out Crystals here to start discounting these now that we have all of them, as well as heading to poke face. The Bewitching Out Crystals can be annoying to play in the late game when it has Enhance because it doesn't pair well with the Depths of the Out Crystals because of the fact that Depths of the Out Crystals cost 6, so everything that costs 5 or more is quite difficult to pair up with it. We got Reef Order here, don't really need it right now since we already have all our key cards in hand. Just gonna draw into our deck more here. We can go ahead and drop the Student as well to just summon more crystals. Well as make some hand space, I guess. Going to evolve Calcadentla here to pick up his spell. Against this Evo Abyss in particular, their lethal is extremely telegraphed with Belial, so there's really no rush for us to try to spam out Depths of the Out Crystals until we see Belial come out. Of course, if we finish our setup, we can just start spamming them anyway. There's no reason to wait. But there's also no reason to rush, and we can't just afford to wait for Belial to come up before we start bullying them with Depths of the Out Crystals. Here we go ahead and use Goddess. If you want to be greedy, against matchups that are a bit slower, like maybe Crest Haven, you can afford to just go for Calcadentla here and get the spell, and then go for Goddess to get 2 more copies of the spell for a total of 6, and that's one relatively reliable way to win against Crest Haven. But in this case, their lethal is a bit faster than that, especially since they've already evolved so many times. There's a very good chance that Belial is coming soon, so we don't get greedy here, we just go for the Goddess to copy it right now, and then next time we can look for Calcadentla to get 1 more copy. Probably don't need more than 3 copies anyway, so I'm fine in that regard. There's the Belial from my opponent as we expected. And they use the Bibati as well, which will allow them to draw into their... or get the token that allow them to draw into their deck later on. Go ahead and draw Calcadentla here as usual. Here we look for maximum damage, so we poke them in the face. This is another case where Dark Side comes in handy. We can use the get rid of one of them so that we have space to summon another Calcadentla for full value here. It is at this point that you need to consider when to play Depths of the Out Crystals. It depends heavily on your opponent's board here. If you look at my spell boost here, we can just barely clear this board with Depths of... So, the ideal here is to play Depths of the Out Crystals and then put them within lethal range. Our expected value is around 7 to 8 right now, and if we get there, they are within lethal range because we have so many Out Crystals on board. So we can look for lethal here, and because of that, we don't want to make space to summon out the big crystal spawn. If you are not confident you can get lethal, you definitely want the crystal spawn to make clearing that board easier, but in this case, we are going for lethal, so we play Depths of the Crystal Spawn first. Oh, sorry, we hit first. I don't know why I hit first, it doesn't really matter anyway. So we go ahead and play the Crystal Spawn here, and we managed to hit them within lethal range here. What happens if we don't is that we try to clear this board, so we can super evolve this Calgidentla here to get rid of one follower, and then we can use Stormy Blast to get rid of something else probably. I think actually hitting twice is a mistake here. Just to clarify, we definitely should have played the spell first because I don't think I will be able to clear the board properly from this position. But thankfully we had lethal, so I guess I get to escape. Honestly, worst case, it doesn't matter because we don't really need to clear the Bibaldi because we are way too healthy for them to kill us anyway. But yeah, just some things to keep in mind, I guess. Our last match here is against Sword. I picked up this match because I thought it was a good, it was a decent matchup to allow some of the unusual cards like Dark Side and the 5-cost student, the 5-cost student silver follower to shine. So yeah, this was very early on, so I was still doing things like keeping Foresight and Read Order. I would just hard mulligan for Calgidentla here. Opponent drops Quick Blader, which means they might not be playing Enhance here, but we don't quite know yet. But now we'll just drop World of Games here to get our draw engine going so we can find our good cards. Opponent drops World of Games as well. This is looking less and less like Enhance. We shall see. Go ahead and play Advent here, and then we coin out the Read Order to find our Calgidentla. We have Bewitching Out Crystals for next turn, so we want to find Calgidentla so we can start discounting it. Opponent drops the Octris here, which tells us this is gonna be loot because new expansion might as well play the old deck, right? So go ahead and use Bewitching Out Crystals here to clear my opponent's Octris while we try to find Calgidentla. Just don't want to take too much damage, you know. And my opponent drops Devotee as well as the Supplicant here, which is not great because so far they are having basically everything loot wants to have. So hopefully we can come back from this. Unfortunately we haven't picked up Calgidentla yet, which isn't great for us. So go ahead and drop Shim here and evolve it just to minimize damage to our face as well as heal off this damage we do have in our face right now. Well, then we'll go drop second World of Games here, which will pop the first one, draw into their deck, and then they will fuse with Returning Slash. Drop Congregant here, which is quite annoying for clearing our board. They have a second Returning Slash in hand, and now they have Sincero as well. So they really do have like basically everything, but hopefully we can avoid dying to them having everything. For now though, we look for Calgidentla. We'll go ahead and play these Metamorphosis to find Calgidentla. We toss Unleash. Is this called Unleashed? It's what is the card's? I don't think I can check what it's called. But we toss the 4-cost Silver spell because we don't want to chip our own face right now because we need all the life we can get against this matchup. Opponent drops a second Octris here and evolves it, which will generate multiple loots for them as well as the Devotee, and then they go ahead and infuse the rest of their loots for Sincero, and they are getting Octris spell next turn as well, so things are looking quite annoying for us, and we still haven't found Calgidentla yet. We're going to play Metamorphosis here to draw into our deck, finally find a copy of Calgidentla here. If you're running about this illusory conjuration that I'm running here, it was in the deck at the start. I replaced it with Odin eventually, but just don't worry about it. Opponent will go ahead and play Returning Slash here to draw as well as mill the loot, I think, and they will drop the Metra here. I'm not really sure if they even run enough enhanced cards for Metra, but I guess they're playing it for some reason. And they will evolve a Quick Blader into my face for good measure, so we are quite low right now, but we're not down for the count yet. I suppose we can go ahead and use Shim here. Get her Crest active. Against most matchups, you don't really need more than 2 copies of Calgidentla's spell anyway, so you can feel free to spend an Evo point elsewhere if you want to. We're going to play Looking Smart to draw into our deck, pick out Read Order, which we will use to find more of our encroach, or rather our crystal generators. Pick out second Calgidentla here, which is quite nice. Opponent goes ahead and uses their Sincero. Here's my board while doing a bunch of damage to my face, which is not ideal. And they will knife me in the face as well for good measure. So obviously we don't want to die here, but we can't quite get the Calgidentla right yet because we don't have enough. So this is a case where Enraptured Student here shines because she allows us to heal up. And we drop Shim as well. I can probably get away with... Oh well, I evolve Shim here to clear the Sincero here because otherwise I would die. This is a bit dangerous, leaving us with only 1 copy of Depths of the Elk Crystals to work off, but beggars can't be choosers, and I'm in quite a bit of trouble right now, so I don't really have a better choice, I suppose. One goes for Congregant here, as well as Gilded Goblet. And then Gilded Boots for good measure, to full clear my board. I think playing this World of Games is probably a misplay on my part, but I guess I did it for some reason. It's very unlikely that I get to pop it with a hand like this, so yeah, that's questionable. And I hit face here. I do lock my own board here, but unless they're running Tentacle Bite, which most likely they're not, they're even running like Read Metra, so the likelihood of them playing the Tentacle spell is very unlikely, and it's the only punish here. Even if they have Vows, worst case I can use Illusory Conjuration to clear it, so really the only punish for locking my own board here is the 7-cost Tentacle spell, which thankfully they didn't have. So just drop Albert here and Super Evil Face here. We take a bunch of damage, which is not great. And we have a pretty bad draw here with World of Games as well. So at this point it's all or nothing, we have to go for Calcadentla here. So we go ahead and trade to make space to play a second one, just to try and make Calcadentla as big as possible. Evolve the Calcadentla as well. You can see the World of Games here getting in the way. I would have had 2 more damage if I didn't do that. Unfortunately, my opponent didn't quite die, which is to be expected. I actually rolled higher than expected by hitting 8 damage there. So at this point, I have to hope that without any evil points and already playing 2 of the Congregants, they don't have a good way to clear this board. And I should be able to finish them next turn with a combination of Surviving Followers and Calcadentla. That is what I'm hoping for right now. Opponent has Augury Cap to clear my guy, and then they have Ruthless Outsword as well, which will hit the Calcadentla, which means they can clear it, and that's of the Outsword as well to clear 1 more, but thankfully I get to keep 1 more, so just barely squeaking out a win after a bad deck against Loot Sword high roll. So that's it for this game, I guess. So that's all the games I have for you today. Hopefully it gave you some idea of how this deck works, and especially how cards like how this specific way of building the deck makes cards like Reefed Order more interesting. You can see some interesting applications for Dark Side and the Rapture Student here being cool, as well as Goddess of Starlight. So hopefully I get to showcase some of these more interesting cards. Again, Parachan himself has worked on the list more since I recorded these games, and he's uploaded his own video, which I will link in the description. I recommend you check it out for a more optimized and modern list compared to this one that is admittedly a bit gimmicky, even though I find it interesting. More people are picking up on like the glory of this deck and how it's surprisingly actually quite good, so you can probably expect to see more improvements made to this list as people do more experimentation. But now I just wanted to showcase this interesting take on the list. So yeah, that's it for today. See you next time. Bye bye.